Minister Malatsi withdrew AI policy. And the reason for that is because the same AI policy was written using AI with fictitious citations.
Deep irony, the very document meant to regulate the country's AI policy appears to have fallen victim to the technology's most notorious flaw, AI hallucination. The policy document was gazetted and published for public comment earlier this month. News 24 reports that at least 6 of the academic citations in the draft policy are completely fictitious, likely generated by an AI tool without a proper human oversight. Minister Malatsi responded on his X account that he's asked the DG to investigate.
Apparently, this policy had gone to different departments, different bodies before it was publicly released, and it was caught up by journalists. The good thing is, you still have good journal in South Africa. AI, it's known for certain errors, and AI is a tool. Okay, it's definitely a tool. So it's an assistive system with probability outputs. It's not authoritative, all right? So it doesn't always provide any authoritative sources, and its reasoning is not a human capacity. It doesn't, even the reasoning about the content, it will draw wrong conclusion. It would attribute certain people to wrong conclusion about that citation, which also brings to another problem around where if you publish that wrong citation and with actually a defamatory sort of conclusions about a person that the AI had attributed that text to them, that person would actually go to court and sue you, and they will win it because the law in South Africa does, same as here in Australia, it does protect against wrongful attribution. So wrongful attribution is the big problem with this hallucination and citations, that people being wrongfully, their names being called out, that they've written stuff that don't even exist because AI had made those assumptions, based on a probability outputs. So probability outputs really, it's about if an event, we know that something's going to happen, that is the certain, we give it a probability value of 1. If an event is impossible, it's a probability value of 0. Everything else lies in between those numbers between 0 and 1. So 0.3 would be your 30% chance of something happening. It relies on that probability outputs. And I'll go and give you an example. What is the AI relies on? AI relies, so like this one would be just a good simple analogy, would be like when you have a tail and tails, head and a tails, you flip a coin, and flip a coin, it's the head, flip the coin is the tails. Okay, you only have 2 sides, head and the tails, both are 50% chance. Okay, so when we talk about probability outputs, is the likelihood of something happening, the likelihood. It's not certain, it's a likelihood, probability. So AI is probabilistically, when we say AI is probabilistically, it's that we mean it doesn't know facts. So it doesn't know facts, and AI produce content, it's not factual content, because AI doesn't know facts. It predicts the most likely next word or patterns. based on the training data is used. Another ethical issue about it that you don't know which data it was used for, which data, the output, the training data, the AI that you're using it used for, because this company, they hide behind the proprietor, clause around actually explaining to how actually they are training these AI where they get the data from, how they're training it, because the data is where the issue is around AI. Where is it you get this data from? How truthful is this data? What is the probability? Because when you talk about probability, even no matter how good the data are going to be, you're still going to end up with a probability, the likelihood. You're not going to be certain. You're going to have the likelihood of something happening. You're not going to be certain. You're not dealing with facts here. So why use such a technology for something as important as your career? Okay, so but people keep doing over and over this thing. So if you're going to use a tool, please learn what the tool is, learn what is its flaws and what is capable of doing. So before using it, just learn all those, the pros and cons of AI. All right, so if we're just looking at this scenario like coin flipping, just imagine, for example, your friend tells you like, okay, I am going to flip this coin, I'm going to marry this person, I think it's the right one, or I'm going to flip this coin, if it's a head, I'll marry this person, if it's a tail, I'm not going to marry this person. Whatever that is, they will only decide based on the tail, whether it's a tail or it's a head. So there's no reasoning they're going to provide. There is no accountability they're going to tell you. There is no justifications. Well, this actually would typically be an irrational person. You would view that person as irrational and unserious if there's someone were to tell you that they are planning to make a decision on major life decision. They are going to make major life decisions, and how they're going to make those decisions, they're going to use flip a coin methodology. If it's a tails, they're going to make that decision. If it's a heads, they're not going to make that decision. So if someone were to tell you that, you would think that person is really irrational and very much not serious, right? So that is the same thing here. There's people who produced, and over and over cases, this is not a unique cases to South Africa, and over we've had these reports being given to government bodies where they use the AI. So they blindly relied on AI outputs. And so what that means is that they've outsourced that decision making. They've outsourced that judgment. Because they haven't done any verification. They haven't critically evaluated the content that AI produced and provided to them. So this is the same as flipping a coin. If you produce and you submit an AI output without that decision, without critical thinking and evaluating of the output that you got from and evaluating it, and actually try to make sure that you can confirm and verify the citation. If you're not able to do that, you are actually flipping a coin. You're making an AI government policy, draft policy, through a probability, using a probability value of a flip of heads and a tails. Yeah, just imagine in domain like marriage, voting, public policy, like in this case, public policy. This policy was meant to be the policy that people will be relying on, and so on. Some people may be victim of this policy and find it negatively affect them, how they do the business and other stuff. And these people, if this thing had been drafted and became a law or went on and on, this would be later on in a couple of years be subject of litigations. If this wasn't caught, and it went on until it became a law, this thing, and it can do a framework and then became a law, and that law affected a lot of people, and then the people goes to court and then they had to look and see, now this thing was drafted based on misleading citation, false, fictitious, aka AR hallucination citations. And then the government will be liable, be liable to pay the people who would be negatively impacted by this AR policy that wasn't verified, that didn't have human loop in it. So there is an expectation of deliberation, value alignment, and accountability. Really, if someone appears to substitute those principles with external tools, deliberation, value alignment, accountability, especially one that don't even understand, they are seen as lacking agency and judgment. The deeper issue around this thing is responsibility. Okay? Serious decisions require what is called decision ownership. Decision ownership. So the minister had read this thing, but the minister also did not look at it and say, wait a minute, this thing, the citations are false, and this is the person who's paid to do their job, and the people, everyone in this who actually encountered this report, this policy, that should all be facing disciplinary misconduct actions. AI is a tool, it's a system, it's a technology. It's not human, it's not a person. If AI makes a mistake, hallucinates, you have made a mistake. You have embarrassed yourself. Okay? So this is what you need to all be aware of it. You can use the tools, but you need to understand the capability of the tool. You cannot delegate your responsibility, your own responsibility, professional or personal, to AI. Okay? This is where South African policy example becomes relevant again. The failure wasn't AI was used. Actually, the actual failure here was no one took responsibility for validating the probability outputs. They flip a coin, flip tail and heads probability example. No one bothered. So they flip the coin and say heads, tails, we're gonna submit it, and they submit this thing. This is not serious. This is not. There's an example of how these people are treating the citizens. They're treating these citizens like fools. Why would you do that? Yeah, now people have to take responsibility. So again, this is what you need to take away from this video. Take away from this video is that AI are tools that are assistive in nature. They're assistive intelligence. You could call it assistive tool, assistive technology, assistive, but they shouldn't be used as outsourced decision making. They're not as a substitute for your decision making, the human decision making. They should not. If the AI made a mistake, if there's an error, spelling error, typo, you're responsible for it. Similar situation here. If the citation is wrong, you're responsible for it. If the people that the AI said that they've written this thing, they said yada yada, and they said no, we never said that, you'll be responsible for defamation that will result from wrongful attribution.